Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking out your evening for tonight's session. So today I'll be talking about Burp macros. It's just a very basic intro lah. It won't be very technical. In fact, I don't think it's even technical. The topic itself is not technical. Yeah. Uh, Also, I don't think this is very useful for CTFs. If you're here for CTF tips, it's not something that you need in a CTF, I think. But I do think it will be useful if we do any re-engagements, which is why I did find this useful. So why should I even care about both macros? So mainly skill issues. So let's say on a re-engagement, you came across a scenario where using a bulk macro is actually the solution to make your life easier. But if you don't know, then it's very tedious. So obviously this is to make your life a lot more easier. So some example scenarios like CSRF tokens. If you have a page that uses CSRF and the CSRF refreshes every time, right? So you can't reuse it. So you need some way to like fetch it if this is like repeater and intruder. That's just another example. Another one is like if you have a feature that you want to test and it has multiple sets, meaning uh, let's say you edit one page and then that value is not reflected on that page itself, but you need to visit another endpoint. So there's like 1, 2, 3 steps maybe. So imagine that you just made the change, but then you need to go back to another page and then like it's very tedious. Okay. And the third one is like refreshing your session. We'll look into all these later. Yeah, this is just taken from their documentation. So it just tells you about what is actually a macro. So macro is just like a sequence of more requests that you can record and you can call them depending on certain conditions. So these are just some of the examples that Burp thinks are use cases for Burp macros. And I think that's about it for the slides. I think that you can see there's a lot more slides, but I won't use it for tonight. It's just for reference if you don't come to the session. You can just follow along the slides. I think it's very straightforward. Okay. Oh, again, I cannot see any of the comments. If there are any comments, I only have one monitor. I mean one screen. So you have questions, just open your mic or wait until the end of the session. Thank you. So for the first example, I'll just use DVWA. DVWA, and I use this because there is a login page that they have that implements the CSR token. So here, this page, so this is their login page. So assuming that we want to brute force this page, or the example, I mean test case, so we don't know the password. Let's say we want to brute force it, and if we look at the request itself, here. So this is the post request to log in. There's actually a user token here. So if you try and like brute force, let's say burp intruder, right? You just brute force a password here. This token, if it's static, right, the request will fail. Okay. So just to show you, let's see. The password is very simple. Okay, I'll just put a few examples just for sake. Okay. Okay, the password is password. Okay. Just for it. Okay. So you can brute force. Okay, so I know the password is password. Okay, this is in hindsight. Okay, but if we look at the response, right? Oh, in this case it works now, but sometimes it doesn't work. But let's say the token, you want to refresh it, right? You can use a macro to do it. So to do it, oops, sorry, where's my book? Yeah. So, oh, sorry. What is this thing? Okay. Okay. So the Burp macro is inside the session settings. So if you click on your proxy settings and then go here, sessions, and here the session handling rule is how you handle the macros. So in this case, we want to add a macro that will update this user token value here, this CSR token, every time before we make the post request. So you can click on an add here, or I'll just give it a name, login CSRF thing. Okay, and we'll add a rule action. So here, you can use run a macro. Okay, run a macro. And then here you need to create a macro. So just add. So we know the token is in the request before the post request, right? So if you look at the response here, let me just make it bigger. The token is here inside the HTML. So what we want is we want it to make a request to here. So this is the macro that we will record. So click on this request, click OK, and just give this a name, grab user token. Okay. You can configure it. You can just leave it as is. But we'll need to tell how you are going to extract the token. So this is fetch from the response. Click on the add. Okay. So we just want to extract this value here and then update it when we make a post request. So Burp is actually a bit cheating. I say it makes your life a lot easier. If you just highlight it, right, you actually write the extract rule for you. I think this was not a feature before. Before you had to write this manually, but it's not that hard to write manually also. But if you just highlight what you want to record, it will do the things for you lah. Just give this a name. Okay, so now that we have this, so this macro will grab the token for us. Okay, everything is okay now, and we want to update the request. So the request here will be the post request. This post request, so we want to update this user token value. Just update here, add one. Okay, close, and I think that's about it. So once we have this macro, then you need to define the scope for this macro, meaning like what items you want this macro to run on. So for in this example, you want it to be login PHP, right? So you can just copy the URL, okay, and include in scope, you just paste it here. So meaning that whenever you try and make this request, right, you run the macro first, okay. You can play around here, the tools. You can play around like which tools you want this macro to run under. So if you don't want this, you can just remove it. For this example, I'll use intruder repeater. Okay, I think that's about it. Okay, so now we'll just test it lah. Okay, so we have this repeater. Okay. If you see, right, this token will update itself. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's a bit small. Hold on, let me make it bigger. Here, session. Okay. Okay, so this user token, right? Okay, so it's trying to run the macro, and then it updates this value here. Okay. If you want to troubleshoot this, actually Burp has a very nice feature also. So if you go back to your okay, here, the sessions tracer. This is useful if you want to troubleshoot your macro. Sometimes things doesn't work like expected. But you can see, if you have this running, you can see what is actually happening in the background. Okay, so we'll go back here. Let's say something got deleted. Okay, so you can see actually what this is the scope item just now, right? And then this is like how he applies the macro. You can use this for troubleshooting. It's very useful. Okay. Okay, so now just to go back to the example here. Okay, we want to brute force this user, right? Okay, so start tag. Because we already activated the macro for intruder, right? You should see that in each request, the token will get updated lah. It's the same as the repeater one. Yeah. Okay, and so with this you can brute force. If in this case, let's say you have a login page that enforces single use CSR. This is like what I had recently. I had like I would say something in real life. I have this issue. That's why you have to use a macro for this. Okay. But then the password is password. If you go back to response here, and is forwarding to if something is wrong. Something is wrong. But the password is password. Okay. Okay, something is wrong. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, if the CSR token is wrong, then you get an error. Okay. Okay, so that's the first example. of a burp macro. Let me just clear everything here. The second example, oh, it's something I wrote. Let me just close this. I have this one. Okay, so I have this very basic app. Let's say you just sign up, a test. You have this user. Okay, just very standard. Then you have this page. It just shows you some text, and then you can update your profile, right? So in hindsight, I'll just tell you this is very basic. This is an SSDI. Okay, if you update it, right, and then you go back here, you can confirm it's SSDI lah. Okay, but then you'll notice something is a bit weird. Meaning, when you update a profile here, right, let's say blah blah blah, the app logs you out. Okay, so imagine if this is a very simple example lah, but in a real scenario, let's say you do something like this, and then it takes like 5 to 6 steps until you can see the actual thing you injected, right? Let's say you're testing for payloads. You inject payloads, then it locks you out. Then you need to log in again. Then maybe go to 6 more steps until you see the actual value. So that 5, 6 steps is very tedious. But you can actually use a macro to do all that for you. So to do all that for you, make your life easier. So we know that the app logs you out, right? Let me just go back. The app logs you out when you update the profile. Let's say you finish updating a profile, it logs you out. Okay. If you look at the request, it's a post edit profile. Okay. Once this request is made, it logs you out by first it kills the session. It deletes your session, and then the other one is it redirects you to log in. So what we can do first is we want the app to log in by itself, meaning like if we get logged out, we log in, enter the credentials. Okay, so we can create one macro for that first. Let me just delete the old one. Okay, so we know that we are setting this login header, this redirect header on login, right? So that will be what we will match on. So, okay, so sessions. Let's just call this auto login. We'll add a rule. In this case, we want to check if the session is valid. Okay, so check the session is valid, issue a current request, and then in this case, this is how you want to determine whether the session is valid or invalid or not. In this case, you will look for the login in the response, and you say the login location header. You can update this based on your use case. So I'll tick this. It says if session is valid, perform the action below. So we want to record a macro that will log into the app for us, and we'll create a new one. So we want to record the macro. So select the one for logging in. I think it's this one. Post login. Yeah, this is my user. Click on OK. You can check here. You can edit these values depending on what are the credentials you want. Okay. Okay. Then everything else can be default. Yeah. The scope here again is the same scenario as before. So what are the items in scope that you want this macro to apply on? Normally, right, for this kind of use case, let's say the app logs you out and then you want it to auto log in. Normally you just include all URLs. So every time let's say even if the session expires, let's say you do an engagement, you authenticate on day 1, right? Okay, and then you go back home the next day, day 2, you come back to the same Burp project. But then you don't want to log in everything and update your cookies and all that, right? You can use this, it will auto update for you. Okay. Also, another use case is for Burp scanning. I don't have it here, but in Burp Pro, you can do active scans. And sometimes, because the active scan runs for very long, right? And then occasionally, depending on the app, right? If you trigger something, maybe it will log you out. So in this case, this is the credential scan I'm talking about. You would need a macro to auto login again to run the active scan. If not, right, while you're running your active scan, if it kicks you out, then you keep on running, right, you will get false results. Okay. So in that case, you also need something like this. I'll just put intruder and repeater here. Okay, intruder repeater. Okay, so just now is like this request, right? Let's go like test. This request update profile logs you out, right? Okay, if I go back to here, let's just make this get profile and this edit profile, these two requests. I'll delete this one. I think I'm logged out right now. Yeah, this right now is logged in. Okay, but if you I say hello, when it kicks you out, right? It kicks you out. But then it knows how to refresh your session, so you can play with repeater lah. Okay, so it doesn't kick you out. If you don't have the macro, right? Let me just disable the macro. I think it will not work. Okay, let's say that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm not even logged in. Yeah, in this case it works. I think we repeat the session. Oh wait, I know why. Because I did invalidate the session. So it's like this is a bug. Sorry, this is a bug. Okay. Oops. Okay, I didn't kill the session. I just removed the session. But anyways, the idea is there. Okay. The other use case is the just now is that we want to look at the value, right? This value, and then it logs you out. So we want to automate that step. So every time you update this profile, I want to directly fetch this. Okay. So an example use case, right? Is like if you want to have a let me just turn on this again. Sorry. If you want to brute force the Python subclasses, just now I mentioned this is a very trivial SSDI lah. Okay, so they do something like this. Okay, this is a very basic one. Oops, I think something I did wrong. Subclasses. What did I do wrong?
Hello, Mr. Marcus.
Yes, sir.
Sir, my name is Arun. I am from UTHM. Actually, I want to ask something.
Yeah.
As for the Burp Suite, right, sir,
Mm-hmm.
actually, which kind of CTF it is suitable to use this Burp Suite platform, sir?
Huh? Uh, for webs, I think web CTS normally people use this. You can use whatever you want. You don't necessarily have to use Burp. Actually, you can just use your browser if you want. Yeah, but this thing makes your life a lot easier.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so back to that. Okay, so we have this SSDI thing. Yeah, so so you have all these subclasses, right? And then you want to iterate through all the indexes, right? And then find something that you can sign a gadget to get code execution. Very classic CTF question. I know there's another method. You don't need to do this to get code execution, but in just for the sake of the demonstration, you'll do this. Okay. So there's a lot here. Let's say we want to brute force one by one. Okay. So we want to first up. Okay. So, oops, this is the finished one already. Never mind. So let's say you have this profile page. Each time you update, it logs you out. Okay. So you want to change that. So and then if you look at how the application works, right? Just now we already know this is an SSDI, very trivial SSDI here. So every time we make a change, it kicks us out, and then we go back to the login page. So imagine that you are trying to test certain payload. Let's say you're trying to spray payloads or anything. Every time you do that, you need to log into the app, and then go back to this page, look at the change, then update again. You can see that it's very tedious lah. So one thing you can do is you can set up two macros, one for auto logging in every time it kicks us out, and then the other one is to automate this part of the testing lah. So if we look at the request, let me just clear everything. Sorry. And just clear everything. Just okay, just test again. My name is test. I say okay, it kicks us out, and then we need to log in. Okay, hello test. The change is there. So we want a macro to auto login first. So to create that, go to session, create a new session handling rule. Just call this auto login. Uh, auto login. Then for the rule actions, you want to check this session is valid, meaning that you want to run a macro when the session becomes invalid. Okay. And let me just delete this. Hold on. Let me just delete my previous macros. Okay. Delete auto login. Rule actions. Check when the session is invalid. So you look at the request back here, the edit profile one. Whenever you make this change, it kicks you out and then redirects to /login. So we can match on this. This will be how we determine whether we are logged out or not. So go back here. The default one is login. So in this case, this works, but depending on your use case, you want to update this string that you're matching on. So we want it to run the macro when the session is invalid, and then we'll record the macro. The macro here will be your login request. So if you click on the post request to login, and you can configure it. So depending on like what users you have, you can update the credentials here. So every time it when it sees that it's invalid, this macro will kick in login as okay. Okay. So then the scope here is as same as before. Depending on your use case, maybe you just want this endpoint. Maybe you just want this edit profile page. Okay. Page this here. But depending on your use case, like normally, you would just include all URLs. So imagine that you have an engagement, and then you do normally the session cookie you have is like valid for maybe 3 hours, and then after 3 hours you need to re-authenticate again. So in like API testing, normally there's like 5 to 6 steps for the maybe 5 maybe 5 for like the authenticating to their API only. So you can automate that step using this. Also for like, let's say you want to do burp scanning. I don't have Pro on this machine. But if you do a burp active scans, when you do a credential scan, sometimes the app kicks you out, whether that's a session timeout already, or maybe you did some action that kicks you out of the session, right? You want to have a macro that does the login for you. If not, right, the scan will just continue without a valid session. Then you will get false positive result. Basically no results. Okay. So we want this to run on edit profile. Click on OK. And so you can see when we run this, oops, and this, it kicks us out. And then if we make a new request, it will work. Okay. Then the second one we want is because every time you make a change to edit profile, you want to look at the profile again, right? So we will create another macro to do that for us. So you go back to your proxy settings, you create a new macro. We just call this fetch profile changes. So the rule here would be like a post request macro, meaning we want this macro to run each after this edit profile request is made. Then you add a new macro. So this macro will be the profile one. So because we want this page to run. So you click on get profile to get requests. Okay. Just fetch profile, give it a name. I don't think you need to do anything else here. Okay. Yeah, just select on this macro. And then you can select the scope. You can play around with this one depending on your use case. But for me, I'll just use intruder and repeater normally. Proxy sometimes. Then we want this URL, this edit profile, because this is the one that we want to run the macro on. So every time we make a change to every profile, it will fetch the profile for us. So click on OK. Just to show you what it looks like. So we have this display name, right? Hello me. Okay, let's see. It will just fetch it for us. Ta-da! So you don't need to do it manually. And then for intruder, right? Let's say you're trying to brute force something in this value. So in your intruder result, you will get this page lah. This page. Yeah. While brute forcing this one. So for this scenario, I'll just show you how to use this macro to brute force the subclasses and then find the gadget to get code execution. I mean, you can do it manually also. But let's say we don't know this, we don't have this value, then so we need to go one by one. So we can use intruder for that. So I'll just put this to intruder. Okay, let me see if it works again. Does it work if I create an extract rule? I am not sure why it's not working. Is it the session? Post, and then oh, something is wrong. I'm not sure why. Maybe. Let me just try this. Is it a cookie? But anyways, whatever. I'll troubleshoot it later. You can have this intruder page, this payload, and then assuming we don't know the index lah. Okay. So let's say you're trying to brute force this value, this index value, and then instead of payload numbers, in hindsight, I'll just tell you it's somewhere around here, 400 to 520. Okay. I think 510 is enough. So you can start the attack. Say we brute force the indexes, and then if you look at the profile page, it responds. Some of it will not work. Eh? Wait. Hold on. Something is wrong. I think I made a change just now. What did I do? Oh, I take this thing. Oops, sorry. Session is valid. The response is here. Yeah, so you can see it's trying to brute force everything, and then you can match on this one. There is one thing that you need to know. Let's say if you try to brute force using intruder, right? If you use a macro, I mean in this case it's okay, but normally you want to change the resource pool here. Sorry. Normally you want a you need to define a new resource pool, and then you want it to only run one request per time lah. But in this case, it's okay because it worked for us. But normally you want like the one concurrent request only. So just run it again. So actually, the one we want is here, 506. This subprocess.p open. And so you can go back here. We know it's 506 already. And just run your command. Okay, if you go this, there's your command. Try again. Oops. What? 506, right? Change. Fine. Yes, there's something wrong. You get the idea. I think that's all I have for Burp macros. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you have questions, feel free to ask now while I try and troubleshoot this thing. Yeah. Okay. Questions? Any questions? Am I disconnected? Hello. Very sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, forgot the thing. I know I just now I skipped a lot of things, and then I also got disconnected. So if you are not sure what I'm talking about, you can look at the slides. I went through all step by step what we did. You can just follow along, and yeah, I think it's very straightforward. You can try this. Actually, what I wanted was to do this. So you can write an extraction rule. So then when you brute force intruder, right, you can just see it directly. But I'm not sure why it's suddenly not working. I will need to look into it later. Oh, here is the GitHub repo. Um, GitHub repo. Yeah, you can find all the source code here. Mm. Any questions? Wait, I'll stop recording.